Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the, I guess this is our second annual MOVE Town Hall, and it's also in conjunction with our 5th anniversary. So here's the agenda. I'm going to just give you a couple of housekeeping tips, and then we're going to hear from our IEEE President, Kathy Land, and then our IEEE-USA President, Kate Duncan, and Chuck DeLong from the American Red Cross has a few words to say. And then we'll turn it over to Mary Ellen, where she will give an award to a friend of IEEE MGA. And then she'll also go over the international aspect of MOVE and where we are headed. Jim Conrad's going to talk to us about the modular MOVE. And then I'm going to come back and talk to you about the activities that we've accomplished this past year, which was a very trying year for all of us. And then Grayson's going to spend the bulk of the time talking about the highlights of the last 5 years of deployments, which we've got quite a few. We have plenty of time for questions, and then we'll have the wrap up.
All right, I'm back.
Okay, so just a few housekeeping items. This meeting will be recorded. And so if you, there are several people who are in different time zones who could not make this meeting, so we are recording it. And then tomorrow afternoon, we're going to be re-recording it, and the speakers will be available to answer questions. If you are not muted, could you please mute yourself? Now, most of the lines were muted upon entry. As you saw, we had a little bit of a difficulty, so we're going to try to continue to mute people so that we have a seamless presentation. If you do have issues, please send through the chat, send host for some questions if you have any problems, technical issues, but please ask all your questions in the chat box. Mary Ellen and Grayson and the team are going to be monitoring them, and if we can answer them, we'll answer them in the chat. Otherwise, like I said, we have plenty of time at the end to answer any questions that we may have. Okay, so next I will go to like to introduce Kathy. Kathy Land is our IEEE President. So go ahead, Kathy.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, thanks. So I'm on my phone. We're having some, ironically, we're having some pretty bad weather here. So it's only appropriate that we have tornadoes and threatening storms while I'm supporting this event. So I wanted to thank Mary Ellen for the invitation to speak today. And many of you may not know that I've been involved with MOVE since its beginning, and I'm a big supporter, and I feel privileged to continue to be a supporter of this important IEEE humanitarian and educational initiative. I can't believe it's been 5 years. It's gone by pretty quickly. This started as a way to engage our members, as a different way kind of to utilize their unique skills. It was a great idea, and congratulate all the people that are participating in this effort and our partner, the Red Cross. Next slide. I'm trying to see, I've got a problem here. So, the original goals of this, again, were disaster relief and then education. So it was conceived really early in years ago, in 2013. There was a focus group in April of 2014, and the truck was designed. I remember talking to Mary Ellen about her about the design and how the truck was going to be laid out. Her talking to me about it. I had nothing to do with the design. Her just bouncing ideas off of a lot of different people. And then the national agreement with the Red Cross was signed in 2016. And then the first deployment was really soon, and after that in June and July of 2016. So there have been 20 major disaster relief deployments to date, and over 200,000 STEM and public sightings. And then most recently, the IEEE Board of Directors has approved international expansion of this effort. Next slide. and I have just a bit of a delay. So here's the summary of all of the different deployments, and you'll hear more about these, so I won't go into these in detail, but just to see that the major fires, hurricanes, tornadoes, MOVE has been there and has had a presence. So this is just important, not only because IEEE has been there to serve people in need, but also it's just such an important support mechanism in humanitarian relief that IEEE and the people that support MOVE are providing. Next slide. And then STEM and outreach. So this provides so many opportunities for STEM education and to provoke interest in not just engineering, but other, computer science and other technologies around Region 3 and also reaching out wider than Region 3. But it's just an amazing opportunity. There was one area, STEM event in Atlanta, I think that had a tremendous footprint, and Mary Ellen can talk about that when she's answering questions, but just remember this was a huge event. So using this for STEM and public visibility, it has a tremendous impact. And next slide. So I wanted to sort of foot stomp MOVE is a hungry animal. If you ever get the opportunity to donate, I do donate to the foundation. It's a tremendous, it makes me feel great when I do. You can donate $50 or more. So that's where you donate to the MOVE effort. And you can pull down the drop box, and MOVE is right there. And then also, if you're interested in volunteering, here's the link. You can sign up, take the MOVE training. Lots of volunteers. It's always ongoing. I'll call Mary Ellen. I'll go, what are you doing? She's like, we have MOVE training. She's whispering. So they're always giving MOVE training, many opportunities for that. And then if you want just more general information, you can go to this link at move.IEEE-USA.org to find out more. But I wanted to thank everyone because I'm preaching to the choir here, I'm sure, today on this webinar, but I wanted to thank from the bottom of my heart the people that have helped to get us to this 5-year anniversary. This is a tremendous effort, and I just really can't thank you enough for all of the people that have been involved, the partnership with the Red Cross, everything that has helped us to get to this point. Thank you so much. Back to you, Mary Ellen.
Thank you, Kathy. Okay, so next we're going to go to, we've got Kate Duncan, who is the IEEE-USA president. Go ahead, Kate.
Okay, thank you. Please advance the slide. Good morning. My name is Kate Duncan. I'm the 2021 IEEE-USA president. I'm pleased to join you this morning in celebrating the 5th anniversary of MOVE's first deployment and to briefly share some information about IEEE-USA's role in MOVE. For those not familiar with IEEE-USA, we're part of IEEE that acts like a national society for the US members. We provide members with a host of career and professional development products and services. We also serve as your voice in Washington to advance the interests of the engineering profession and to help policymakers address technically complex public policy issues. We capture this mission in our slogan, IEEE-USA, building careers and advancing public policy. Next slide, please. So our first effort in IEEE-USA is really to help build our members' careers. IEEE-USA offers a wide range of career and professional development related products and services targeted at members in all segments and at all stages of their career life cycle. Our goals are to help the member maintain their professional vitality and provide tools to help manage their careers like a business. Our primary offerings are webinars, ebooks, audiobooks, prepared by subject matter experts on a host of topics like the future of work, you know, how to organize important ISO standards, critical thinking skills for engineers, and topics such as that. We offer new resources each month. We have several hundred current titles on a wide array of topics in our ebook and webinar catalog. These are available on the IEEE-USA website, and these are free to all IEEE members. We also have the IEEE-USA salary service and our online salary calculator. These are great tools for benchmarking job offers. We also have services for self-employed members. We provide a host of resources for consultants, including a national online consultants finder, kind of a database, and an annual consultants survey, and an annual workshop for consultants. IEEE-USA also co-sponsors a host of technical conferences with a focus on new and emerging technologies like green technology, homeland security, as well as topics related to humanitarian activities. Next slide, please. IEEE-USA also has a role in advancing public policy. Some of the activities we're involved in with public policy are advocacy on legislation and regulation of interests that concern our members. We have efforts to engage U.S. Members in grassroots outreach to their representatives in government. We keep members up to date on important federal and state technology, including workforce-related legislation and regulations that affect the profession and engineering practice. Our advocacy efforts are coordinated through a number of volunteer committees made up of representatives from the IEEE-USA regions, sections, and societies, and others with relevant policy experience. We cover a range of topics from artificial intelligence to energy to federal investments in R&D and other workforce-related issues. One of our big activities in public policy is our Congressional Visits Day. This year, Congressional Visits Day is going to be virtual. It's not too late to actually sign up at this point. Congressional Visits Day was rescheduled for April 14th. Congressional Visits Day involves participation in arranged virtual or local visits with your representatives in Congress to talk about selected topics on R&D and innovation. So if you are available on the 14th of April, please do sign up. We also, each year, we sponsor government fellowships for IEEE-USA members or US members to spend a year in Washington. These fellows work as S&T advisors to members of Congress or congressional committees and in postings at the US State Department and US agencies for international development. You can find out more about this at the link at the bottom of this page, IEEEUSA.org/advocacy. Next slide, please. So IEEE-USA is pleased to be a founding partner in the MOVE program and congratulates the entire MOVE volunteer team on 5 years of successful operations. This is actually owed to your past region director. With her characteristic persuasiveness, then Region 3 Director Mary Ellen Randall convinced the IEEE-USA to help Region 3 and Region 5 start up the MOVE program. And we invested over $400,000 to procure and outfit the MOVE disaster recovery vehicle. Since that day, we've continued to support MOVE with grants to support truck upgrades, operations and to assist with MOVE promotions, fundraising, and administration. MOVE's mission aligns closely with IEEE's focus on advancing the public good and supporting technology for humanity. MOVE also supports IEEE-USA's focus on promoting public awareness of the profession and K-12 STEM literacy through its public engagement. As MOVE looks at opportunities to replicate itself abroad, we look forward to continuing to support a strong MOVE public outreach and disaster recovery program here in the U.S. in partnership with U.S. regions and the U.S. Red Cross. Next slide, please. So in closing, let me say thank you again to all the MOVE volunteers for all your efforts to serve the public and help the Red Cross provide relief to those in great need in the wake of natural disasters. This year, you celebrate the 5th anniversary of your first disaster deployment. There were, in fact, 5 deployments in the first year and a total of 20 major deployments to date in the wake of major hurricanes, tornadoes, flooding events, plus a long list of STEM-related public visibility deployments at major science festivals and fairs around the Southeast. Your work provided network communications power and other technical support to Red Cross responders is critical, but often goes behind the scenes and doesn't always get noticed as it deserves. You know, the recognition. Let me say, IEEE-USA notices, and we thank you for all that you're doing to make a real difference and to give real meaning to IEEE's aspiration to serve the public good. So again, thank you. And I'll take questions at the end of the program. So thank you, Mary Ellen. Back to you.
Thank you, Kate. Okay, next we're going to have Mary Ellen talk about a few different things. Mary Ellen, go ahead.
Thank you, and welcome everybody. It is a great day today to celebrate the 5th year anniversary of MOVE, and it wouldn't be happening without so many of you who have contributed so much to help us out. And we thank IEEE-USA for their financial support and other support, and the Red Cross for being our national partner in this endeavor. We were going to have Chuck Delhomme speak. I'm not sure if he is on or not. If you are, Chuck, can you unmute and let us know? And if we get you later, we'll bring you back on. So next slide, please. Okay, we'll move one more ahead, please. Okay, so none of this would have happened without a visionary leader named Barry Porter, who's the Regional Chief Executive Officer here in Eastern North Carolina. And Barry is on with us today. He was submitted for a Friend of MGA award, and it was awarded to him. Those awards are given to people that's a worldwide kind of award, Barry, so it's a big honor in our eyes. MGA stands for Member in Geographic Activities, and of course this is a geographic type initiative, but we're hoping we know the geography is going to expand in that regard. But we want to thank you, Barry, for having the vision. It started with lunch, where we talked about what we wanted to do with MOVE, but we needed a really important partner in the Red Cross, and Barry saw the vision. He is a visionary, and so he assisted us in making inroads and making this all happen. So we wanted to give you this in person, Barry, and had planned it. And as you know, COVID intervened, and we're so grateful for all your support and everything that you have done for us. And I'd like to give you a minute if you'd like to just say a few words, but we're so grateful for you. Thank you for all you've done for us and for being a great friend.
Well, thanks, Mary Ellen. Thanks for the opportunity. Miss Land and Miss Duncan, thank you for hosting this event today and allowing us to recognize something that started from a fifth-year deployment, but was an idea that IEEE did from a survey that you all conducted after Superstorm Sandy. And I have to give credence as well to Paul Goodson, who was a volunteer on our board of directors at that time. And Paul and Mary Ellen and Grayson knew one another. They said they were cooking up this idea, that this group called IEEE, that I could never get, the right order of the 3 E's, wanted to meet and talk about this. Did we have need for a vehicle that could provide satellite communication and help provide information and communication to the public in the midst of disaster? And so they had done the survey, they had this idea. What was our thought about it? And so we met immediately, saw that Mary Ellen was a force to be reckoned with, and that she was going to drive the train on this, and she made so much of this really a reality. My role was to say, yes, I believe it's a need. 2, it's something we need to coordinate with our volunteers and a resource for the Red Cross. How do we then begin the partnership? And so, Mary Ellen, it's been a blessing to have the MOVE truck not only deploy to disasters, like the first one was the big flood in West Virginia, and then convince the national organization this was more than just a North Carolina asset, that it's a national asset. And then all those deployments, I actually took a screenshot a minute ago of those so I could recall some of those activities that you all have been in. And then the engagement as direct volunteers with the Red Cross, the continual funding that is coming from IEEE-USA in that regard as well, to support the deployment of the volunteers when they get there, all a part of being a part of the Red Cross disaster technology teams and making sure we're able to serve clients. So it's a pleasure to be recognized. It's not deserved because I just simply connected dots, Mary Ellen, to your and the team's vision of the IEEE to make an impact. So thank you all for doing that. Great for 5 years. I love to see what's coming next with the MOVE truck and its engagement across the country. Let's just hope there's no more disasters to send it to, but we know that will be. And I know those volunteers have deployed and recorded hundreds of hours of assistance. So thanks everyone who's been a part of this for the 5 years. And Mary Ellen and Grayson, thank you for your leadership.
Well, thank you, Barry. And as you mentioned, Paul Goodson was our connector, and we've had so many volunteers that have been key to this program. I wish we could mention everyone who's contributed, but thanks so much, and we're glad to have you as our friend.
You're welcome.
Next slide, please. So as mentioned, we are moving forward into the international arena with disaster relief, and there has been some disaster response that's been done throughout the world, but we're trying to get more systematic in our approach to that. And so I just want to take a moment to recognize these directors who have who actually sponsored the new initiatives committee grant that we received, and have been instrumental in doing the heavy lifting to get us over the finish line in order to be able to move internationally. Next slide, please. So some people have asked at different times, how much good can one truck do? And so we developed this little graph to show you our reach. One little truck, which is located in North Carolina, has been as far north as New York and Massachusetts. It's been as far west as Texas. It's been to Florida and even into Missouri. So with one little truck in 5 years, we've covered all that territory. But in addition to that, the really big thing is not the truck. It's the people that serve with it. And those people are very skilled. You all are amazing. You give so much of yourself. And we even had 2 folks, Steve Kemp and Tim Forrest, who deployed to Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria. And that was in a very trying year when there was storm after storm after storm. and they deployed to multiple storms. The Puerto Rico deployment was considered a hardship deployment, and so that was there was a lot of damage there, not much power, not a lot of facilities, and they accepted that challenge and jumped into that. And a little later, we'll tell you about some of our other deployments that have been most memorable. Next slide, please. So just in summary, with the truck, we do disaster relief and educational outreach. And the things that are new are that we have had in IEEE interest from all around the world. I highlighted a few of the places in the bottom left that have indicated they're interested in pursuing similar pursuits to what we're doing with the MOVE program. And so the board of directors has approved for us to begin our international expansion. There was significant member interest, and again, since we're all in the engineering realm, of course, we did studies and focus groups and so on to determine whether our members were interested and whether there were potential partners around the world to work with us in order to make this the most effective that it could be. So we have been evaluating the partner potential too. We believe that's there. And we're looking at not just other vehicles or additional vehicles, which we are, but they will be customized to the area that they are. They won't be identical copies of what we have, but everything that we've learned in this will be, will be transferred and shared in order to come up with the right solution in the right place at the right time. And so we're planning some modular units that we think will be especially helpful in islands where they tend to get very bad storms and the infrastructure is severely disabled. So our next two targets are marked on the map there, and they are India. And there we do hope to have another vehicle, start with another vehicle there and grow the program in that geography. And there's a lot of very interested in giving members in that area who want to contribute. And the other target is the Caribbean, and primarily it's Jamaica and Puerto Rico. And I will tell you that the Puerto Rico team has already, as a team, become Red Cross volunteers. They've taken their training and they did DST online or hands-on training last weekend. So they're a very excited group, and we hope to make inroads in multiple islands with some modular units so that when the disaster hits there, we're ready and we can assist as well in those areas. And we hope that's not the end, but we're going step by step, and that's our next two targets. Next slide, please. Okay, so just to give you a little background on how we do this, we have a leadership committee. This is a model of a local organization. And again, this will be tailored to each locale, so it won't be exactly identical, but it will be close to this, similar to this kind of thing. So we have a leadership committee. So we have a U.S. leadership committee. We have different functions that people perform: communications, deployment operations, finance and fundraising, STEM operations, volunteer deployment, and team development. And all those functions are critical to making MOVE work. So although a small number of people actually go on the truck, there are a lot of people who actually contribute to our efforts. And we'll get into, peel the onion back a little bit more in the upcoming presentation to let you know some of the functions that are even not even described on here that are critical to our success in deploying. And I will mention that Loretta Arellano, who is has started this WebEx here and is the MC for the WebEx, is our leadership leader in the U.S. at this time. I'm stepping off to work on the international work. So we're glad to have Loretta on board, and she is really come on with fire. So it's great. Next slide, please. So how we're envisioning the world is, oh, you need to click. Sorry, there's a little animation here. So how we're envisioning the world structure is that we will have an international committee, and there'll be an India structure, like the last slide, USA structure like the last slide, Caribbean. It could be Caribbean or it might be the different islands, whatever we decide that is. And I think that we'll tailor the roles and the amount of leadership positions to the specific needs of the area. But we'll come together as an international committee, an international team. And the reason for that, is there any way to slide this up just a tad? Is that thank you. If we want to bring together our skills, our tools, our experiences, and our processes, and if you look at the words across the bottom, they spell STEP. So these 4 elements bring us a step closer to advancing technology for the benefit of humanity, which of course in IEEE, that is our tagline, and it's our belief. So we're all in here in order to advance technology for humanity. And I think by sharing these on an international level, we have an excellent opportunity to increase, again, our effectiveness around the world. Next slide, please. So I want to thank our volunteers, our sponsors. I'd like to thank our staff. David Imes has been with us since the beginning. He's in IEEE-USA. We have new addition, Mike Wilson, who is in the Power and Energy Society organization, is helping us with the international effort. And of course, the entire foundation, Karen Gallucci and the entire foundation staff, many of whom have helped us with our fundraising efforts along the way. And I apologize for anybody that I missed in my moment here, but we are a donor supported program. We have a fund in the IEEE Foundation, and we are grateful for all the support that you provide to us. And if you have any further, at the end of this, we'll be glad to take questions, and you'll be able to put them in the chat and so on, and we'll try to respond and let everyone know, exactly what's happening. But we want to thank you all for your support. Thank you for sharing this day with us. 5 years ago, I got to say, I didn't envision this quite the way it is. It's better than ever. So thank you so much. Thank you for your support, and we're so grateful. Thanks.
Thanks, Mary Ellen. I see that Chuck is online now. Did you want to go back up to that chart?
Yes, please.
Okay.
So I'd like to welcome Chuck DeLone. He is the Senior Director of Disaster Technology, Response and Operations Support for the American Red Cross at National Headquarters. And Chuck is the guy in charge, and he gets us involved with these disasters so we can help with the technology. So Chuck, we welcome you, and would you like to say a few words? Do we have him unmuted?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. Sorry about that. I had a minor emergency I was dealing with this morning. Just want to say that, we have, as an organization, a lot of MOUs and SOUs and agreements with organizations, but what makes me so proud of the IEEE is that this relationship is a partnership in the truest sense of the word. You guys have been with us side by side on numerous operations over the last 5 years. Sometimes with both, your own folks and our folks, like David Sewell, involved and on board the vehicle in states not only on the eastern seaboard but across the country, and have brought connectivity and assistance and charging capabilities to clients and everything else that you do in some very not only remote but challenging situations where your organization has been praised by our job directors and our folks in disaster leadership on relief operations, and couldn't be prouder to have partners like you guys that, like I said, have been side by sides with us in the thick of it for the last 5 years, and I'm looking forward, to the next 5 as well and beyond, especially during, some of the challenging situations that we went through last year with all the DRO the operations we went through with the layer of COVID on top of that. And whenever we've needed assistance, you guys have always been there, ready to come and assist and be there for the communities with us. So I just say from the bottom of my heart, thank you.
Chuck,
Thank you,
we
Chuck.
thank you too. And recall, we're all Red Cross volunteers as well. We train in all the technologies so that we can be effective when we go out as a team. And thank you so much for your support. We really appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And next we're going to hear from Jim Conrad to talk about the modular move project.
All right, thank you very much, and happy to be with you. And there's an ask at the end that has nothing to do with money, but has a lot to do with time. So next slide, please. So you have heard about Move, and I would say everybody on this call is probably familiar with Move and what it does. So the whole idea of modular Move is that it has the benefit of being replicated hundreds of times because it costs a lot less than a truck. More importantly, it could be distributed all over the world in rather smaller groups, but it has many of the same capabilities as the Move vehicle does. And the other advantage is that, as I mentioned, since it does not cost quite as much as a Move truck, it can be done by sections or other types of groups that have an interest in this. So the whole idea of modular Move is, next slide, can you take this, next slide please, can you take this and shrink it? We have racks that we have capability for communications as well as charging phones. We have a generator, we have solar panels and a satellite dish on the top. Next slide. And so the original idea of modular Move is that we would have several boxes that you can mix and match depending on the area in the world that you were. But through customer interviews or potential customer interviews, we discovered that they really wanted a single box that was able to be big enough to put several things into, but small enough that two people can pick it up and put it in the back of a vehicle, SUV, minivan, even a larger sedan. And so the module or the specific functionalities inside of each one of these boxes is power generation, power storage, device charging, wireless networking, and satellite communications. Now, the hope is that with some of the new low Earth orbit satellite communications devices coming online, that will easily fit into our box. Next slide, please. And so we had some senior design students create a device. There is a cap that goes on this, which you'll see in the next slide, but it has different areas that the functionality in a smaller scale can be done. So next slide, please. So what you see here is an actual implementation of this. We have, for example, from Goal 0, an expandable solar panel that plugs into a lithium UPS converter, UPS and converter, and it provides storage. We have the internet communication device, for example. Cradlepoint is an example of something that can use the cell phone network to handle data communications. We also have the possibility for putting in here, as I mentioned, the satellite communications device once it comes online and is somewhat affordable. We also have at the very top the opportunity for trays of power bank chargers. And if those of you who are not familiar with our technology for power banks, we have devices very similar to this, which are logoed for IEEE-USA. This one is not logoed, but the whole idea is that we can charge these up and hand them out to Red Cross, Red Crescent volunteers all over the world, or to our IEEE volunteers as well, or maybe to some of the victims of these disasters. The one thing that is not included in this is a generator. Depending on where you are in the world, and the fact that it's a little bit difficult to store gasoline or other fuels, we have the option, of course, for hooking up a generator for this entire system. Some of them are relatively small. For example, the Honda gasoline generator is nothing more than a foot and a half wide, and as I said, take gasoline and generate enough energy to be able to support communications device. And Butch mentions economies of scale are possible with a cheaper and more plentiful option. And so next slide, that's where we bring in the ask. So how can you get involved? At this point, Modular Move has been me and a couple of senior design teams, and that now it's time to actually build a larger team. One of those larger teams will also need to have some mechanical engineering assistance as well, because we need a cheaper, easier to manufacture all over the world box to be able to put things in. We also need to start identifying the specification of appropriate equipment for non-US applications, different power requirements for all over the world. Then we also need some logistical help. If we actually have all of these places all over the world who want one of these boxes, using economies of scale, we can agree with some of our sources to say, if we buy 400 of these, how much will they cost each, and hence lower the price. But then again, more importantly, we need the local fundraising organizations, whether it be a section, whether it be a society, or even student groups, to fundraise to purchase the box and all the materials inside. And then finally, we have not established any processes for, once you have this box, what's the best way to train with it, to maintain it, to deploy it. And so we need people for that as well. So if you go to the next slide, if you are able to participate and interested in being involved, there is my contact information right there. Email is probably the best way. And yes, student design competitions with cash prize could be one of the options. But of course, we need you volunteers to help with organizing that and judging that. So we hope to get Modular Move now up and running in a big way. Please give me a contact if you're able to do so. With that, we will take questions towards the end. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim. Okay, next on the agenda is me. I'm going to talk a little bit about what we have done this past year. Let me put this full screen. Okay, so I'm going to talk about 2020. While most of us were at home watching Netflix, the move team was actually very busy. As you know, hurricane season, or you may not, hurricane season is between June and November. And so as you can see, this timeline for just last year, before COVID lockdown in early March, mid-March, we did have one deployment for a tornado out in Nashville, Tennessee. Jay and Steve were able to support that deployment. But during the deployment season, we had actually four major deployments that we were able to execute, especially during the COVID times. In August, they went to the Hurricane Isaias out in Bertie County, and that was Jay and Sarah. And then in September, the Hurricane Laura, that was in Lake Charles, Jay and John. And then almost immediately after that one, the truck turned around and went back to Florida for Hurricane Sally, and that was Grayson and Allen. And then in October, we had Hurricane Delta, which was in southwest Louisiana, and that was Grayson and Allen. So as you can see, during this COVID time, it was very difficult, yet these volunteers chose to go out into the world and actually help. So I think they really deserve that extra thank you, because they really are our heroes during this time. So what happened during COVID? We had some extra challenges that we had to make sure that we complied. The truck is fully equipped with appropriate PPE to support our volunteers, and they're trained on the appropriate protocols to operate in this environment. We had, developed the processes, and they went through IEEE process. And then we're very fortunate. Every time we had one of these disasters, we sent out an email to the volunteers to say who would be willing to and able to go on this deployment for up to a 2-week assignment. And we always had people volunteer to go out there. So the ones that supported us this past year, I mean, we thank all of them all the time, but these are the ones that really went out beyond, even before they got vaccinated, they were able to go out there with a team. So thank you. So another thing that happened this year, we've had some informal activities in these areas, but this past year, Grayson formalized these working groups. He leads all of them, and he has assigned the various people to lead these activities, and they're all very active. We've got the radio, the training, the maintenance, the move weather team, and these are the leads on them. Now, I'm not going to talk about any of them because Grayson's got that all in his presentation, but just wanted to point out that these really did get formalized this past year, and they're all very active. And then some of them, like the weather team, during the deployments, they are key to the guys who are out in the deployments. They really utilized the weather team's activities to make sure that they knew where they should be going during the various tornadoes or hurricanes. So we also conducted some training since we were in lockdown. Before the lockdown in early March, we were able to do some Red Cross training, the DSP 101 training, and the move truck training. Those are usually held in conjunction with the Southeast Con, and so it was held as planned in early March, right before the shutdown. And then during the shutdown, not a whole lot of training, formalized training happened, but we did have last month, we did have the operational training, which was held over 3 weeks periods, a couple hours each week, or an hour and a half each week. We actually had quite a few attendants at that one. I think it was like 68 people attend. And then we are having an upcoming training, a driver training that's coming up. This is this weekend. We need to get some more drivers trained to be able to go out in some of the deployments. This year, hurricane season is expected to be as heavy as last year. So we want to make sure that we have enough trained drivers to be able to support the deployments. Mary Ellen mentioned the efforts that are going on in Puerto Rico. They've been actively last year working towards getting ready for a disaster. They've gone through all the training portions of the processes, which was very difficult during this last year. There was that joint effort with the Red Cross. Mary Ellen did mention that they went through and did their hands-on training. And so here is some of the photos of the Puerto Rico team. They all have their t-shirts, and they were all middle pictures with the Red Cross satellite. They were able to do their hands-on training recently. And Luis, who is also from Puerto Rico, is our fundraiser webmaster. So I want to thank the Puerto Rico team. And as you've heard before, we do have some STEM activities. Now, unfortunately, because of COVID, we weren't able to go out as we typically do. But before the shutdowns, the truck was able to go on a couple of different missions. First of them was in early February. They were able to go out to Jacksonville, Florida, where over 3 days they covered 3 different groups of people. Saturday, they went to the local Red Cross chapter and visited with some of those volunteers. And then on Sunday, they went to the Northeast Florida Science and Engineering Fair. And then on the Monday, they went to an artificial intelligence at Jacksonville chapter of the Computer Society. And then during Engineers Week, which is usually the end of February, they were able to go to the Forge Initiative, which is in Cary, North Carolina. And Jay and Brian supported those tours. In the bottom right-hand corner is a picture of them in there. Yeah, this is pre-COVID, so that's why you see a lot of people in the truck currently. If you saw a photo, there'd only be one in there. So I want to thank our sponsors, and we've been very fortunate that we've gotten quite a few new sponsors this past year. As you see, we have quite a variety of both internal and external. And also up in the upper right-hand corner, we have our IEEE volunteers. We actually get quite a few people who donate to this activity, and we thank you very much. So thank you. With that, I think we are now to Grayson's. And Grayson's, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing so that you can go ahead and share. Grayson's got a lot of photos.
Okay, are we there?
You see it?
Okay, very good. I was really excited and proud to be part of this team, and I'm looking forward to talking about some of the deployments and some of the activities of the MOVE team. I am the operations lead, and that primarily means that I'm responsible for the truck, making sure it's maintained, making sure we have the appropriate equipment on the truck, making sure that everybody that deploys is trained and has appropriate safety and understanding of the truck. The picture I'm showing is actually in Greenville, North Carolina, during Hurricane Matthew. We were previously at Fort Bragg, where we provided communications for the entire operations for Matthew for almost a week. And then we moved to this operation, and there was a gentleman called Brian Green who was running this operation. And Brian, who's a young professional, was so interested in the truck that he later joined IEEE and is today a very active IEEE member and active member of the IEEE MOVE team, and is on his way to becoming a driver. So really excited that the MOVE team, we actually draw in. There's quite a number of people on our team that have actually joined IEEE in order to participate in this program. The other thing I'll mention at this point is you're not going to see any pictures of people that have been directly impacted by the disaster. A lot of people say, why don't we see more pictures of people? And it's a Red Cross protocol, and it's an IEEE protocol that we don't take pictures of the people. Many of them have lost their homes. They don't know the status of their home. and occasionally there's a loss of life involved. It's very touching, and those people exist at all these deployments, but we want to show pictures of what we do to support them and how the operation proceeds without involving those that are being impacted. I thought I was. Okay. Okay, Loretta already showed the team. We have several key people that are helping to run the teams, and I'll walk through these. So overall, the team objectives is to support, train, and for the safe operation and deployment of our truck and our members. And here, the pictures below are actually at IMS 2019. We were in Boston at a large IEEE conference, and actually lots of people were able to come through and see the truck. We have a maintenance team. The truck requires a lot of maintenance. We do the oil changes, monitor the tire pressures, batteries, the electrical and communication systems. They add shelves and storage for us and take care of us. In the picture, our truck monkey, Tim Forrest, we were, I think this one was in Hurricane Michael, but we have the capability to operate 24/7, and we have to change the oil in our generator every 250 hours. So a little over a week of operation, we can actually shut down the generator, and we can run all of our communications equipment on battery and solar. So we shut down, are able to change the oil in the generator and to restart without impacting the service that we're providing to our customers. The training team, this picture was taken, I think, in Tampa. We usually do a training at SoutheastCon every year. This year we've gone virtual, but David Sewell is a American Red Cross DST chief. He's one of their leaders. He also has joined IEEE and has taken over the training mission for us, as well as for the training he does for the Red Cross. So we really appreciate that. And David's also training to become a driver. So he's been very active in our operation, as well as the American Red Cross, and the Civil Air Patrol, and many other organizations. So we have both an operations class, which trains people how to be safe and what's on the truck and some of our procedures. And then we have a driver's class. There's significantly more material that the drivers go through to understand the safe operation of the truck and managing how we interact with our customers. I'm really excited about the weather team. Tim Forrest heads up this team. The weather team has members all over the US. We operate primarily virtually. They monitor the weather when we're not deployed and look for potential flooding, potential severe weather, and during hurricane season, they're tracking the storms and giving the leadership team updates as to potential impacts and potential deployments. Gives us an opportunity to get our teams together and prepare and be ready if we need to deploy. The weather team, once we deploy a team to the field, the weather team interacts with them on a regular basis, sometimes almost real time, to give us updated information about the weather and what we need to know. And I got two great examples. we were on our way to Florida to a hurricane. And the weather team called us and told us that there was a tornado watch over the area that we were passing through. And we actually rerouted the truck. They gave us a better routing. We jumped over to a different interstate and were able to avoid the watch area. It's just another level of safety that we didn't get into that area. And the other one was just recently, we were down in North Carolina at the tornado. On the return, the temperature was hovering around 32, and I got constant updates as to where the freeze line was and where the precipitation was, and they walked us all the way back and told us exactly what to expect from a weather. So it's a great opportunity. We just got a portable weather station on the truck where we can feed weather information back to the team real time. So it's a really exciting team, and I really appreciate what they do for the MOVE team. It's really great, and it's a real help to improve the safety of our team. We have a network team that's responsible for configuring all the digital communications on the truck. Includes the satellite system, the Meraki system, which is the networking security device, the switches, the access points. We have an LTE router, and all the digital support is configured and maintained for security and for usability for all of the digital networking. The radio team, Jay Diepenbrock leads that team. We have CB radio that we use while we're traveling. We have a ham radio with 2 meter and 440 centimeter support that we can use on the truck. We have FRS radios, which are like walkie-talkies that we use when we're on site to coordinate activities at the truck and inside the building. And we have two new public service radios that will be installed soon that will allow us to talk to emergency management and fire departments and other government agencies when we're on site. The radio club, I'm really excited about. Technically, we haven't announced it yet, so this is kind of a pre-announcement. But the radio club, we are going to have IEEE members that are ham radio operators join our club, and we are going to work on passing and support of disaster communications. So we will have members from across the US and potentially around the world that can support the MOVE teams in the field using radio communications. They'll be trained in DMR, WinLink, and other technologies that will allow us yet another backup system for supporting and maintaining communications when we're in the field. So we have satellite, we have cell over LTE, and we also are improving our radio communication skills to support the team. We just, with the last week or so, we got our club license from the FCC, and hopefully in the next couple of months we'll formally kick this off and start work. So I'm really excited. I think it's going to be a real fantastic addition to the team. So now I was asked to talk about some of our deployments for the last 5 years, and boy, was that difficult. We've done so many things and so many exciting deployments. So I've tried to narrow it down. I've got more slides than I should have, I'm sure, but I want to talk through a few of these. So Ellington, Missouri, was in 2016, I believe. There was a series of floods in the lower part of the state. We were deployed to St. Louis, where we met up with David Sewell, who was the DSD chief, and we were assigned to do MARCs. And a MARC is a multi-agency resource center. And that's a collection of agencies, government agencies primarily, well, not just government, but government and local, state, and federal agencies that support people after a disaster. This series of MARCs, we had almost 30 agencies that were providing information, and we'd set up these buildings, and people that had been impacted by the disaster could come and get all kinds of information about programs that were available to them to help them in their recovery. So there were 2 teams, and we leapfrogged over the course of a week to different locations across the bottom of Missouri. And we were assigned Ellington, Missouri. So we pulled up to Ellington like 7:30 in the morning. The building was locked. It's a little tiny town. A lady came to us and asked if she could help, and we told her who we were, and she goes, "Oh, you need the mayor." She goes, "I'll go get him." And about 10 minutes later, the mayor opened up the building for us, and the building, the town hall, was this tiny room. There were 2 electrical outlets, one behind the soda machine and one behind where the picture was taken. And we had a team of 30 agencies coming to set up. So we worked very closely with the American Red Cross logistics team. We got the table set up. We were carrying laptops, printers, communications equipment. And we were able to power this entire room. And I didn't mention that there was no cell service at this location. So we set the truck up. We provided communications for all the agencies and for the public, as well as to set up all the laptops, the printers, the routers, and access points. And I was just super proud. The other teams didn't have the equipment we had, and it would have been a huge problem. We were able to set up, execute the MARC, which went really well. There were a lot of people. That room was jam-packed with people, and we provided communications for everyone at this event. This was kind of a fun one. In 2017, there was a solar eclipse. I'm sure many of you were aware of that. Andrews, North Carolina is a little tiny town in the very western tip of North Carolina. It's up in the mountains, beautiful streams and wilderness areas. The town of Andrews is a town of about 1,500 people, and the emergency management people for that county had been working on the solar eclipse for about a year. And there was an expectation that over 100,000 people could arrive at Andrews in order to see the eclipse in totality. We were one of the few areas where it would be a total eclipse. So the Red Cross invited us to go. The cell phone system in Andrews had a capability of 8,000 to 10,000 users, and with an expectation of nearly 10x that, there was an expectation that the cell service would fail, and a spoiler, it did fail. So we set up. The Red Cross was providing what they call a safe and well mission. We had a booth set up, and if people were to get family members were to get separated, they could come here. They would get logged in by the Red Cross in their Safe and Well system in the cloud, and it would assist tracking down and getting the families back together. So we provided the communications with the expectation that the cell system would fail, but something very unusual happened. A couple hours before the eclipse was supposed to start, we got a call from the Emergency Operations Center, the EOC, and they said that they had an emergency at the airport and that the airport had lost communications capability and had to shut down until they had appropriate communications. There was some negotiation with the Red Cross. The Red Cross released us from our Safe and Well mission, and we moved the truck. Within a half hour, we had moved the truck to the airport, set up operations, and they were able to reopen the airport. The airport that day had the most jets that had ever landed at that airport. Everybody flew in their corporate jets and planes and stuff to be in the center of totality. And we were able to keep the airport open because the airport had the capability to make phone calls and to communicate through our truck. It later turned out that the failure was only for about an hour. And once the airport's landline came back on service, we actually shut the truck down and we returned to the original mission and were able to watch and participate in the solar eclipse. So it was really great. The Emergency Operations Center was aware that we were in the area, and we were able to, on extremely short notice, to respond and to bring up communications that were really required, very seriously required, and then return and to complete our original mission. It turned out that while we were in Andrews, North Carolina, there was a storm called Hurricane Harvey in the Gulf of Mexico. We actually returned back to North Carolina, back to the Raleigh area where the truck is stored. And we had an emergency oil change done on the truck. And with a 24-hour layover, we actually responded to Houston. We simply got a night's sleep, got the oil changed, got the truck, additional supplies on the truck, and we responded to Hurricane Harvey. As you can see in the picture, this was taken from the TV screens in the truck. The landfall for Harvey was down near Corpus Christi, a long ways from Houston. Houston's was the operations center, the American Red Cross headquarters for operations in the state of Texas, and was in supposedly a safe area where they could assist and send teams into the Corpus Christi area. Well, it turned out that it started raining in Houston. We had just arrived. It rained like a summer thunder shower. I mean, it just poured. And it poured for 3 days in Houston. We got 53 inches of rain in 3 days that spawned terrible flooding in the Houston area. So the next morning, every morning there's a stand-up meeting at a DR, or a disaster response. We get a daily briefing on the team's goals for the day and a kind of uplifting talk from the leadership. And at the end of the meeting, David Schindler was DST chief, signed us to go to the George R. Brown Convention Center. And he said, before you go, make sure you talk to transportation. So we talked to the Red Cross transportation team, and it turned out to get the couple of miles from the headquarters to the convention center was a very complicated route in order to avoid flooding. You go down this street, you take a right, you go up a couple of blocks, and they provided us routing to get the truck to the George R. Brown Convention Center. The convention center in Houston is huge. This is one of 3 rooms that were used to support people. When I arrived at the convention center, there were 850 people being sheltered. Tim Forrest and I were in charge of all the Red Cross communications for this building. In this case, the building actually had Wi-Fi and power, so that our truck was parked in the back parking lot, and our goal here was to provide services for the Red Cross to support many, many people that were providing health care, managing those disaster people. There was a lot of people, and we provided laptops, printers, radios for communications. I kept track of all that. Again, I'm not showing this room full of clients or people impacted, but of the 850, in the next 48 hours, we escalated to 10,500 people being sheltered in this building. The building was activated as with a medical setup. The National Guard brought in basically a hospital. There was a portable mobile drugstore here. We had doctors and optometrists. The people that arrived here left very quickly. Many of them didn't have their medicine. Many of them didn't have their glasses. They didn't have information that they needed. And the Red Cross did an amazing job of supporting 10,000 people, feeding them and taking care of them. And we had the opportunity to make sure that they could do their job. We'll take a short diversion here. This is the truck parked in back of the George R. Brown Convention Center. We walked out one night. We were sleeping in the truck at the time. And Tim and I went to bed, and a little while later, Tim woke me up. He goes, "Grayson, you got to see this." You can see how hard it was raining that night. And a little while later, the water was up to the bottom of the truck. We were essentially in a flash flood. We actually pulled the truck ahead. We jumped the wheel chocks and just drove the truck up close to the building to get out of the water. And the water actually rose to be fairly deep. There was almost 2.5 feet of water in that parking lot. And the water was within inches of going into the building where we had thousands of people sheltered. But fortunately, the water started receding, and we were able to get back to normal. But you have to be very aware of your surroundings when you're deployed. Situation can change very rapidly. The school buses here, we're bringing in people that have been impacted. They were fleeing the floods, and there's a line of them. And all day long, there were just busloads of people being brought in and left at the convention center. And the Red Cross managed those crowds and were able to assist people and feed them and take care of them while we managed the disaster. Here's a street. I found this amazing. This street is not near a river or a stream, and yet there was tremendous damage in this neighborhood just from the amount of rain that came down. It was just incredible. While we were in Houston, 17 was a busy year. Hurricane Irma was churning in the Atlantic. We had a discussion with the leadership of Red Cross, and it was determined that we would move the truck to support Florida because the Houston event had stabilized. Now, we did fly in additional team members to Houston. If I remember right, that was Jay and Steve Kemp flew in and took over for us at the George Brown Convention Center and continued operations there. Well, we moved the truck to Tallahassee, Florida. And it's very interesting because in Tallahassee, we were watching very vigilantly, and the weather team was supporting us. The hurricane was supposed to track up the east coast of Florida, and every update it moved a little further west and a little further west. And when we got up the next morning, they were actually predicting the Hurricane Irma would pass through Tallahassee. So we actually packed the truck up, moved it back to Mobile, Alabama, where it was determined it would be a safe place for us to wait out the storm. And then the next morning, we transported the truck into Orlando, Florida, which was Red Cross headquarters for the event. The hurricane actually passed across the Keys and then looped back in at Naples, Florida. So we were assigned to go to Naples. The move team frequently gets sent to the hardest hit areas because we can quickly provide the communication services. Here at Naples, they had no power and no communications. And I'll say the community had no power. The Red Cross building had an emergency generator, so they had power inside, but they were unable to communicate outside of the building. We actually took IP phones off our truck and placed them in the building and connected them with Wi-Fi and phones that were operating through the move truck that was parked outside the building. And we provided them, they were able to order equipment and correspond with the headquarters in Orlando with some shelters that were in the area. And it gave us a great opportunity to assist. We also worked with Verizon to bring in a cow, a mobile cell phone tower that was set up here at the Red Cross facility at the Naples. And once all the communications was established, we were asked to move the truck on to the Keys where the initial landfall had occurred. And here's some pictures of Marathon down in the Keys. You can see the significant damage to the buildings. And from Marathon, we were moved down to Sugarloaf Key. It was just below Big Pine, where much of the TV news were camped out at Big Pine. And we were at Sugarloaf Key. And you can see the power lines were snapped off. What amazed me was that all the leaves and the foliage had been stripped from the trees. There were no leaves on any of the trees. And I understand that the salt water from the ocean, the salt acts as a sandpaper and actually helps tear the leaves off the trees. We saw boats floating in the ocean. I understand the Coast Guard recovered like 1,300 boats after the storm. This was a trailer park. You can see the trailers are upended and stacked in different locations. This area at the time of the hurricane had been completely flooded. And you see pictures of boats on the highway, and yes, we saw pictures. We saw boats on the highway. It's pretty amazing scene as we traveled down through the Keys. After Hurricane Irma, we also sent additional teams there down to the Keys. And following shortly after that was Hurricane Maria, which impacted Puerto Rico. And as Mary Ellen said earlier, we also sent teams there. So although our move truck is a critical asset and a tool, it's a tool that we use, and we do send teams out with the Red Cross to help support them even without the truck. And we're cross-trained with the Red Cross, so they learn about our systems and we learn about theirs, and we can operate as Red Cross or we can operate as IEEE. Probably the most impactful event that I've been to is Hurricane Michael. It was a Category 5 hurricane, which is the highest category that they rank. It came in onshore from the Gulf in Panama City, Florida. We were actually standing by in Mobile. The weather team had routed us down the west side of the storm, which was the cleaner side, and we stayed in Mobile. And within 18 hours of landfall, we were on site in Panama City, and the devastation was unbelievable. This was the road in. We actually had like a 5-mile backup of traffic trying to get in, and were later provided a police escort for not only us, but for all the emergency personnel trying to get into the Panama City to assist. We got a police escort in, and were able to provide services at a shelter in Panama City. The shelter was rated for a Cat 3, and there were many people there, and the Red Cross provided them safety and shelter and food. When a lot of the roof was missing from their shelter, the windows were badly damaged. You can see in this picture the power lines are laying on the ground. We had a lot of difficulty getting into Panama City. The power lines were low. The street traffic lights are like windshield level to our truck. And we had Tim guided me through. We were in and out of the truck and worked our way under all the power lines and stuff. And it was a very difficult trip into this shelter. I found this amazing. The wall is missing from this building, but yet all the merchandise seems to be pretty much in place. Almost every home in Panama City was damaged. You couldn't go anywhere. The question that was, is it minor damage, shingles and siding, or is the building beyond refixing, and was it completely demolished? You can see this building in front of us is totally collapsed. And the buildings in the background, the apartment buildings, there's no siding and there's no shingles on any of the buildings. in this area. And the trees all snap off about halfway up. That's because the wind speed is higher as you get up off the ground, and it will actually snap the trees higher up in the on the tree. Houses that were damaged. We had IEEE members actually asking about the status of family in the Panama City area. And once we established communications, we actually took our day off and traveled to several communities to look up and find people, and were able to report back to IEEE members that their families were okay and had survived the event. Cement power lines laying on the ground. It was just incredible damage. I understand from a lot of my Red Cross friends and others that live in the Panama City area that they've never really recovered. Many people left after the Hurricane Michael, and there's still a lot of rebuilding and services that need to be done in that area. You can see through the windows, you can see right through the roof of this bank building, the amount of damage and it was done. Again, I just find it incredible. But we were able to provide all the communications for the Red Cross for the first several days. There was no power in Panama City. There was no water. There was no communications at all. And we set up, and for the first few days, all the Red Cross communications with Tallahassee, which was headquarters, was provided. After a few days, they actually moved all of the people being sheltered from the Panama City to what they called a mega shelter. There were over 1,000 people in a shelter just outside of Panama City. And we moved there and provided communications at the mega shelter in conjunction with the Red Cross communications and with FEMA, who is also on site there as well. So again, very rewarding. We were without showers for 8 days before we were able to get a shower, but those people were in dire need of assistance. And the capability of us to go in and allow them to contact family, to contact insurance companies, and to do communications and get access, get their phones connected so they could get information and talk to people is just an incredible, rewarding opportunity. So, so there's so many more that I wish I could talk about. There's flooding in West Virginia and Louisiana. We went to forest fire in Gatlinburg. That was an interesting event. We've been to a couple of tornadoes where there was significant loss of life and were able to assist, as well as hurricanes, which is kind of our bread and butter because of the amount of damage over such a wide area. It allows us to really be able to assist with the communications needs. So I really am grateful to all our sponsors and our donors who make this possible. We don't have a regular yearly funding. All of our operations and support come from the donations that we get from the foundation, from IEEE-USA, from Cisco, from the regions and the societies and the sections that all donate to us. And it's a great honor that we can take that money and provide these services. to those that are desperately in need. So that's the end of my talk. I think at this point, Mary Ellen's going to take over and answer any questions that you may have.
So I think we've taken all the questions that I see in the chat. However, I do want to apologize to Audie Burke, who also deployed during COVID, and I'm very sorry I missed putting your name on the chart, Audie, and despite reviewing them in advance, it didn't occur to me until we got into this meeting that I had done such a disservice to you. So thank you also for being willing and for deploying during that difficult time. I'd like to recognize a couple people from the Red Cross who are in here. Monica Montoya, who leads the partnerships for the Red Cross, the National Red Cross, the American Red Cross. So thank you for joining us, Monica. And also Kelly Edwards, who's a communications expert with the American Red Cross, and that's includes all the social media and so on. Thank you, Monica. That's done at the Red Cross. So thank you also for joining us, Callie. And some of you are coming in kind of incognito, so if I missed you, I'm sorry, but yes, Callie's here as well. Thank you. So any other questions? If you don't mind putting them in the chat, that's the easiest way for us to respond with this larger group. Do we have trained media spokespeople deployed with the vehicle is the question. The answer is yes. We have a couple of our volunteers who have had media training, and they do typically are with the vehicle. Good question, Mike. Will this presentation be made available? Yes, in fact, we're going to replay it tomorrow in the evening at 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern. So if you know someone who would like to see it, who missed it, we have a WebEx set up for that tomorrow, the 17th, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern time, and we will be replaying it then. If you have another need for it, just get in touch with me or Loretta. AJ Burke is asking, what are the areas in Region 10? Well, this is good because he's still talking to me, so thank you, AJ. That are looking to participate with the international move. Well, India is definitely in Region 10, and the Region 10 director has asked us to also look at some other areas. It's a very large area. It includes a large part of Asia, and all the way down to Australia, up to Japan and China and so on. So Region 10 is a big one, and we will be looking for additional opportunities. We are, you know, the only thing that holds us back is finances, because we've got the heart to do it. But we are actually have a process that we developed where we walk through all the different factors, what we need to study before we decide where we're going to locate an additional move operation. And it includes evaluating the interest in the IEEE level, because we definitely need volunteers. It involves evaluating what the folks or what the partnership situation is. We evaluate what the probability is of having a series of disasters. So we try not to put everything where it you know, where they don't tend to have these kind of things, and how can we respond to them. So for instance, with India, it turns out the India Navy also services Indonesia. So we think that we'll get more out of that if we get both the truck and some modular units in specific places in India, so that we can respond accordingly. So we look at the geography of the area too to see what kind of assets we can move around and so on. So all that's in our procedure that we developed in doing the international evaluations. So do we get good media coverage, publicly broadcast when deployed? Yeah, we do. Sometimes we get very good media coverage. Sometimes it's never bad media coverage. I mean, they're always very gracious, but there's a lot of times a lot going on. So we're not always the prime story, but we've had some excellent interviews that we have recorded and so on our website. And they come do look at the truck, ask what we're doing and so on. And so we do get substantial media coverage for the most part. Are the IEEE technology investments influenced by input from American Red Cross DST? Well, Lee, we're American Red Cross DST too. So we try to find a place where we think we can contribute, not duplicate is what we try to do. So we evaluate every investment that we make based on where we think we can and plug a hole maybe isn't the right term, but we do take all of that into account. It was never our intention to kind of step into a place where there were other people working. We wanted to be an assist and perhaps provide some other things that maybe are at a shortage or are lacking. So that's why we have the inside the truck. We have a capability to charge 100 battery packs or 100 phones at the same time. We learned that from our focus groups, that the telephones were extremely important to people who were homebound and sheltering and so on during these disasters. But we also found out that is extremely important also to the responders like yourself who are out in an area where there could be a compromise or no cell signal. And so we provide those battery packs to try to help people stay connected when it's difficult. Will you be able to make the presentation slides available? Stephen, get in touch with us and we will let you know. We'll provide you whatever it is that you need. Does Red Cross request that MOVE be activated or deployed, or is IEEE the decision maker? That's a good question, Mike. And the answer is both. Both the Red Cross requests us, we offer, and we also work together on where we should be activated. When we are activated, we work with the DST lead, and Grayson mentioned that David Sewell is one of those DST leads, and we work with them to determine whether we should stay with the current situation, move to another part of the disaster operation, and so on. So it really is a partnership, and we're very grateful to have important partners like the American Red Cross. Do we promote MOVE deployments publicized within the technology community other than engineering societies? We do publicize when we're deployed to anyone who's interested. They have provided us, filled out our interest form. We also put it on a Facebook page, put it on our web page, and the foundation is very gracious in also advertising that we are deployed and so on. So other engineering societies, I don't know specifically, but I'd be interested in your thoughts on that, Mike. And yes, Jen would like to share a quick message. So go ahead, Jen. Jen is from Puerto Rico.
Hi, Mary Ellen.
Hello.
So this is just a quick message to thank you all for your kind support. Mary Ellen, you have been determined to make this work here. Grayson gave us the first training that inspired our tremendous volunteers in Puerto Rico. Jim is working with us to make sure that we can implement this portable option in our international version in Puerto Rico, and we are trying to do our part. We will try to document as much as possible the process so this can be replicated in other places. Our volunteers, we all suffer after Maria hurricane. Many of us went through up to 3 months without electricity, and we do know what these kind of things can make for the population, for the community. So this is just to thank you and to make sure that everybody knows your donations and your support are going to the best places and are really helping the community. So thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Jen. We appreciate your support and your entire team's efforts in that regard. The key is being prepared before the disaster comes. So we all train throughout the year so that when it comes, we're there to help in the most expeditious way possible. So, we all want to make a positive impact on people who have been hurt by these storms. So thank you all for your support. Okay, Mike, I'll work with you on some of that partnership information. Thank you. Any other questions? I think I'd turn it over to you next, Loretta. Is that right?
Yeah, can you just give the control back to me though? I can't share.
Grayson has it.
Oh, Grayson, please. Thank you. Okay, so we're on the final stretch. I've just got the last couple of charts to close up the session. Okay, so Mary Ellen mentioned that there are a lot of people working behind the scenes and on all the committees that Grayson talked about, our leadership team, and we also the people who are trained, who take the time to go through the training. And so we keep a running list of all the volunteers who have gone the extra in each calendar year. And so this is a group of people who participated in the MOVE activity somehow in one of those activities that I just mentioned. This is just page 1. Page 2, as you see, we have quite a few volunteers who have gotten involved in this effort in some way or another, and we want to thank all of you for doing that. So I want to thank not only all of those.
That was just this year, that in
Correct.
2020, right? Yeah.
Correct.
Thank
That was
you.
just 2020. Yes, exactly. Thank you, Mary Ellen. Yes, we have a running list every year, and we recognize every calendar year the volunteers in that one given year. So yes, if we were to pull the list of all the past 5 years, the list would be quite large. And so I want to thank all of those volunteers and all of our partners like the American Red Cross and our sponsors. I shared earlier all the different sponsors that we have in companies, organizations within IEEE, as well as the individual volunteers. If you do want to donate, there's the IEEE Foundation website that you can go to and donate. And if you want to volunteer, I know, you can reach out to any of us on the leadership team and in any avenue that you would like to participate in, but you can also join the movement, pun intended there, and go to that website and register. I do monitor that website every month. I pull off the list of people. If you ask specific questions, we'll answer you. If you want to get involved, we'll put you in the right team. And also follow us on Facebook. We're trying to make sure that up-to-minute information is on there. We advertise deployments, we advertise our courses. So please, if you're not already on our Facebook, please follow us. And with that, I want to thank all of you. And Mary Ellen, did you have any last things that you wanted to say?
I just want to say that we recognize that it's taken a village. It's taken a lot of folks to make this happen. And if you want to volunteer outside the US, just put that on your form that which area that you're interested in volunteering on if you sign up on the website. And thank you so much to everyone. We really, it wouldn't have happened if people didn't glom onto this idea and get in line and support. And it's an amazing, amazing outpouring of your generosity in so many ways. Thank you so much.